Okay, so a few months ago, there was a very important, a very famous, very well recognized international tournament. It's called the Olympics. Everybody knows about it, right? But a huge controversy was created when one of our own athletes from the Republic of Korea waved a flag and a signpost saying Tokyo is our land, and he was persecuted by the Olympic Committee because of the fact that they have certain rules, certain standards that make it impossible for the Olympic athletes to speak out their political opinions or have any accord to that regard. It put our nation in turmoil. It put myself, personally, in a lot of anger perhaps, not just rage like outrage, oh I'm outraged, not this kind of outrage, but rather it really made me question standards regarding some rules that are existent, not just because they're necessary, but rather because it has been made ages ago when it was created. It had these kind of purposes. For example, in the Olympics when it was created, there was a lot of imperialism going on. There was a lot of jingoistic nationalism going on. So because the nations were so prone to war, because there was so much nationalism going on, they needed these kind of measures. But times have changed. We have more international peace. We have more order in our world. And moreover, we, as the whole entire world, believe in liberal democracies. We believe that everybody should have the freedom of speech as long as it does not infringe upon the freedom and the rights of other people. So basically, this is what I am going to talk about. I'm going to present to you as to why Olympic athletes should, in fact, have this kind of freedom of political speech, whether during the Olympics or even after. So, I'm going to talk about three main supporting evidences, or three main ideas that forward my case. First of all, let's talk about the free market of ideas. What I mean by this is that when we have a discussion, when we have a lot of ungrounded or well-grounded ideas thrown about, it's impossible for any one of us to know which idea is legitimate, which idea is in fact right, or which idea should be taken into account when it comes to taking them into consideration in the political sphere or whatnot. We believe that with the increase of technology, or when it comes to communication, with the internet, SNS, what have you, that it's much easier for us these days to harbor an open communication, an open dialect in which these kind of ideas can be criticized, can be reviewed by others, and can be even made better if there is room for improvement in that regard. So, what I believe in that sense is, if there's a good idea being thrown out into the public, then of course it is something that we should value and uphold in that sense. And when it gets these kind of reviews, moreover, it gains the legitimacy because it has went through these kind of process of being under scrutiny. And also, if it's something bad, if it's something ungrounded, if it's an idea that harms or hurts other people, then in that sense, it will be criticized upon, and it will be thrown out. A good example of where this kind of idea of free market of ideas fail is when we have censorship. For example, in China, they have a lot of internet censorship regarding certain politically icky words. What they have as a result is that the citizens cannot fully participate in this kind of discussions. So what you have is you can't really review them. You don't gain any legitimacy over any ideas being thrown into the political sphere. So in the specific regard of the Olympics event, I believe that it's absolutely and fundamentally necessary for this kind of free market of idea to function and to be taken into account in the international society. But moreover, moving on to my second idea that will support my case, is that you are undermining the freedom of speech that every single individual should have, and moreover, government should protect. Basically, what our government is doing right now is being a very negligent one, being a very irresponsible one, to say, when the fundamental duty to provide the basic rights and freedoms of these individuals. That's why governments were created in the first place. That's their fundamental role. We say that it's impossible for the governments to become a full manifestation of people's wills and become a good government if it fails to protect the fundamental freedom of speech, to say what you think is right, express what you think is right, regardless of what other people think about it. We believe that, for example, then the Korean government has failed the athlete who has made this idea by signing into the contract that the International Olympics Committee has made in a unilateral sense. But also, I want to say that if it's a problem of how much attention that you're getting, just because it's an Olympics, just because it's an event that draws so much attention, there's going to be so much turmoil, then I say to you, I don't care. Why? Because of the fact that I have already told you and explained to you about the free market of ideas. Then same parallel analysis goes to, for example, very prominent figures that are not necessarily politicians. For example, when Oprah Winfrey openly announced that she is supporting Barack Obama for presidency, then it is a political speech. It is a political speech that gains a lot of attention, but I say that it's a good thing, even if it draws a lot of attention, whether it be good or bad. First, it shows that the government is doing a good job in making sure that Oprah Winfrey's rights to say what she wants, to say what she thinks is right, is secured. But also, because of the fact that these kind of ideas, once thrown, like I said, will be reviewed, will be crafted even better, whether discarded or upheld, at the end of the day, you will have a better outcome with people with better ideas. So moving on to my third and last argument as to why we should have political speech with the Olympics. I want to tell you about a confusion that a lot of people have, a misrepresentation, as to say, when it comes to what is a national representative. I tell you that there is a lot of confusion because people normally say that if you're a representative of a nation, you should support the national interest. And when you support the national interest, what happens is that you have these kind of conflicting interests with others. These athletes are not fit for these kind of diplomacy, and therefore they shouldn't have a say in this. We tell you differently. We tell you that the spirit of Olympics grounds itself on not just, whether a certain party or certain group or certain nation has these kind of interests, but rather the representative of sportsmanship. I mean by this, as in people participating, competing under their national flag, and showing their endeavors is what really matters, and this is where national representative, the term, comes in. The athletes are only representative of the nation's sportsmanship, and therefore they don't have any direct liability that a diplomat or a politician should have in that regard. So, with the confusion cleared aside, then with no liability, it only makes sense that the athlete should also have no responsibility to keep back what he or she thinks is right, whether it be against or for the government, whether it be for or against other people. So, to come to a conclusion, because it is harming these kind of fundamental freedoms and rights of the people, but also it's harming our whole entire international society from advancing to a better society with better ideas, that in fact Olympic athletes should have the freedom of political speech. Thank you.